you can type the questions in. So you should have a Q&A button at the bottom, and if you type your questions in, I'll give you a bit of details at the end of the presentation about different types of questions, because we can do kind of ones that we can answer live, or we can do private questions as well if it's something specific that you want us to answer. So I would just encourage you to hold off on questions just now, see what the presentation comes to, and then at the end of that, we're more than happy to stay on and answer as many questions as you have. Okay, so I will try and share our PowerPoint now, and we will get going. Okay, is that shared okay? All right, yeah?
I can see it.
Okay, so plan for tonight, we're going to talk you through, Laura's going to talk you through induction days and our one-to-one conversations, which I know a number of people have signed up to, which is great. I'll talk you through what our plans are for the return in August and our plans for blended learning as they stand. I'll talk a little bit about transport, uniform, and a few other bits and bobs, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions at the end. So I'll pass you on to Laura, and she'll kind of talk you through the first part.
Hello, so like Ewan says, I'm one of the people support team, and I also have overall responsibility for transition. So I know that I've met lots of you already at the P7 Open Evening, and I've been meeting lots of your children throughout the year. Normally at this point in the year, we really like to give you the chance to meet your pupil support person face to face, because when your child starts with us, it tends to be us as the pupil support team that are your first point of contact, and we tend to be the people in school as well that your child will come to see if they've got any problems. So we like to start off with a bit of face-to-face so that we can just start getting to know each other, so you feel comfortable about getting in touch with us. Obviously this year we can't do the face-to-face, but we're still really keen to get in touch with you. So we're really pleased that so many of you have signed up for the one-to-one conversations that we're offering. So those will take place, they'll start taking place next week. So thank you for letting us know what times of day suit you best. So one of the pupil support team, depending on which house you're in, will give you a little ring. Now, just one thing to be aware of, because we're all working from home just now, they tend to come through as like no caller IDs. So if you're getting those phone calls next week, obviously if you've got voicemail, we'll try to leave you a message, but I know most of us tend to kind of avoid those calls, but if you could pick up if you see that next week, then the chances are it's one of us. So one thing just to make you aware of as well, I will hopefully be going on maternity leave after the summer. So I'm going to be replaced just for next year by Adam Torbett, who's one of our history teachers at school. So he's already in school, he knows everything that's going on, he's already a part of the team, so I'm not worried at all. I know he's going to do a really good job of looking after all the pupils in SCAR. Mrs Robertson will be in touch if your child's in NIF, Mrs Fraser for Cairn, and if your child has got any kind of additional support needs, then it'll probably be Mrs March and that gets in touch. Other thing I just wanted to reassure you, I know schools, you know, have been closed, and as in we can't get in them at the moment, but primary schools have been really good at keeping in touch with us and sharing information about all of your children's progress and any concerns or needs that they have. So please be assured that we have that information. Other thing I just wanted to say at this point, obviously we're doing questions and answers at the end, but if you have questions or anything specific about your child, you're probably better waiting until the one-to-one conversation to talk about that then. However, if it is something urgent, then please do let us know, and we can make sure we prioritise you as one of our phone calls. I think we can move on to the induction days now, Ewan. So we're really pleased again that so many of you are able to come in for the induction days. We know that it is a worrying time, so we really wanted to give pupils the opportunity to come into school to kind of alleviate some of their fears, but also just to give them a chance to see obviously things are uncertain, but what it might be like in August in terms of how it's going to work with social distancing and things. So I know Ewan's going to talk a lot about that later on, so I won't go into too much detail about that just now, but we just want to reassure you that we will be obviously making sure that we put all the precautions in place for the induction days to minimise risk as much as possible. So when the pupils come in, you'll see that we're going to meet them. We always meet and greet pupils when they come in, because we know it's a bit scary coming into the building, particularly for our non-clusters who've not really been in that much. So we'll be there in the morning at the door, waiting to greet them. And the first thing we'll do is take them into the hall and give them a chat about what the day's going to look like and what the expectations are. Now, the thing that I've got on my screen at the moment, that's a kind of screenshot of a little document that we've put together. We're sharing this with pupils via Teams, which I'll talk about in a wee minute, because obviously we want pupils just to know what to expect when they come in. So they've got this plan, and we're going to give them a chance to talk to the pupil support teacher about it tomorrow. So you can see there's quite a lot of detail on there, but we're sure, you know, obviously they will have more questions which they can ask tomorrow. And if you've got any more questions about that, then obviously there's time at the end. So Ewan, if you could just flick on to the next slide, I'll just explain a little bit more. So obviously the induction days are taking place over 4 days. So you can see the dates on there. So depending on which house your child's in, they will have been invited in on a different day. You can see that we've actually got 4 S1 classes this year. So there's 2 NITH classes. So NITH are in on Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, at this time of year, normally we would offer our full 3 induction days where they get to follow their timetable, try out all their subjects. That's not possible this year. We've had to reduce, obviously, the time they can come in for. So when they do come in with us, they'll be participating in 3 different activities, and that will be in smaller groups. So for example, when Kieran come in on Monday, I think there's roughly about 27 pupils in Kieran who've said that they're going to come in. So we can't have them as a big group. So we'll do the introduction together. Obviously, they'll be spaced out in the hall for that. But then what will happen is we're splitting them into 3 smaller groups, because at the moment when we're planning for returning to school, we're looking at group sizes of 10 in classrooms. So they'll be split into 3 groups and they'll do 3 different activities. So you can see on the screen, depending on which day they're in, the activities will be different. So for example, if your child's in Cairn and they're coming in on Monday, their subject taster that they're going to do, so it'll be a 45-minute subject taster, that'll be with Mr. Miller. And apparently he's got some forestry fun planned. That will be an outdoors activity. So again, we're sharing that with the kids so that they know what they need to bring. So basically outdoor shoes and a jacket. We're asking all pupils to bring outdoor shoes and a jacket, because at break times they possibly will want to go outside, but also just we may need to go outside for part of the tour and things like that. So if you could make sure, please, that your child's appropriately dressed, that would be really helpful. You can see there's no PE sessions or anything. They don't need PE kit, but just outdoor footwear and a jacket would be great. So then if they're on Tuesday, it's science, Wednesday it's business studies, and Thursday, I was going to say that's a short stroke. I shouldn't say that. Maths is fun, isn't it? So maths on Thursday. Now, so they'll have 1 classroom session, so that'll be their subject taster, and then on each day, the other 2 activities are the same. So they'll have a circle time session, so that's 45 minutes in a small group with their pupil support teacher. So they'll be sitting in circle. I think circle time is maybe something they'll be used to from primary school, and it'll be some getting to know each other activities, and also a chance for them to ask questions face to face, because we know, again, even though we've got the team set up, they're quite often reluctant maybe to do that online. So that's the second session, and then the third session is something we call the timetable challenge. So again, we know one of the big worries for pupils is getting lost. So we're asking them to bring in their timetables with them, and we do a little activity where we set them a challenge and they've got to find their way to their classes. Now, obviously, we're going to have to be a lot more controlled about how we do that this time, so we'll be setting them off intervals. The school's now got a new system set up for a one-way system, so we'll be getting them used to that as well. But again, we usually find that activity is really, really useful in helping them to feel a bit more relaxed about not getting lost. The other thing, I think most of you should hopefully be aware of it by now, we have put virtual tours on our website. So if your child is feeling a bit anxious about coming into the building, even if it's before next week, if you haven't already, you might want to have a little look at the virtual tours that are on there. There's 2. So if you've got loads of time in your hands, there's one that's about 20 minutes. That's the full-on tour. You go in and out of all the classrooms. Or there's one that's just 3 minutes. It's just kind of a whistle-stop tour if they just want a quick look around. So those are on the website as well. I know, again, Ewan will share the link to that later on. Right, I think that's it for induction days. I'm just having a wee look to check I've not missed anything. No, I think we're okay. Next slide, please, Ewan. So I mentioned Microsoft Teams when I was talking before. Now, in the letter that we sent out to you, we gave you a code for your child, depending on which house they're in, to join up to Microsoft Teams. Now, we can see that lots of pupils have managed to do that, but some pupils haven't. So we're just asking if you could please encourage your child to log on to that. We think most pupils, as usual, know more than us. So, you know, they usually know what to do to get on there. A lot of them have used it at primary school, basically need their Glow email and log on. And there was information about that in the letter pack as well. But if you're having any issues at all, please just contact the school office and one of us will get back to you to help you with that. We're using Microsoft Teams over the next couple of weeks, just again to give pupils the opportunity to interact with the other children in their class, but also for them to interact with us and for us to share activities. So you can see on the screen I've put a little circle around pupil questions. So you'll see when you open up Microsoft Teams, or if you look at your child's one, depending on which house they're in, it'll say, and then there's channels down the side. There's a general channel where we as teachers post announcements and things, like we posted induction days announcement with the summary the other day. But you'll see there's a pupil question channel. So that's specifically for pupils to go on and they can post a question and they can get a direct response from their pupil support teacher. Now, again, to encourage pupils to do that and to start interacting with each other, we have asked or invited them to a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So we sent that invite through Teams and we also communicated it with the primary teachers. But again, if your child hasn't received that message, if they're able to join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock, then we'll be on. It's not going to be a live video session. It'll just be a typing question and answer, because obviously they will meet their pupil support teacher live on the induction days. But again, if they could join us for that, that would be lovely. The second kind of main use for Teams over the next couple of weeks, we're aware that on the induction days, like I say, they're only going to get one subject taster. We'd like to give them the opportunity, if they want to try out some other subjects. So all of our faculties in school have basically put together some little activities for the P7s, and what we're going to be doing, you can see I've circled like the files section on there. So when the induction days start, we'll explain to pupils when they come to see us in the induction days. So as well as coming in to visit today, you can also go on your team and you can have a wee shot at some of the activities that are on there if you want to try out some different subjects. Now, again, please do not feel that these are compulsory, that pupils have to do them all. We know that it's stressful at the moment with homeschooling and juggling what the primary schools are asking for. We have communicated this with the primary schools, so I know particularly with our cluster anyway, they're planning to reduce the amount of home learning activities next week to give pupils the chance to participate in those activities if they choose. They're not at set times, there's not a timetable. We'll basically be putting them on. It's like a bank of resources, and they can pick and choose at times that suit them which ones they want to have a go at. Some teachers have said, if you do this task, you can email it back to us and then that'll help us to get to know you. Or some other teachers have said, if you complete this task, could you bring it with you when you come back to school? So for example, I know the art department have done a little activity. It's just about designing like a funky monster letter around their name, and then they're asking pupils to bring that in to be like the front cover of their folder. But like I said, if for whatever reason pupils aren't able to participate, they won't be disadvantaged in any way. It's an add-on. So like I say, if you can do it, it would be great, but please don't feel any pressure. I think that's all I had to say for now, but obviously I'll be here at the end if you've got any questions specifically relating to the one-to-ones or the induction days.
Okay, so aside from the induction days and the kind of other transition stuff that we do, we also offer enhanced transitions. So they're mostly for, if we've got pupils that are particularly anxious around coming to Wallace Hall or have additional support needs, then we kind of offer, ordinarily we would have had enhanced transitions going on this term with, more visits and things like that, but obviously that's not the case just now. But I suppose the first thing I would do is reassure you that Mrs. Marchant's already been doing some of these enhanced transitions. So there have been lots of individual conversations with families around different needs of different pupils, and very importantly, we've had, as Laura said earlier, we've had lots of conversations with primaries around pupils and around what we can do to kind of best meet their needs within that. Obviously, we are, Laura's talked about the communication with pupils over teams there, which is kind of another part of that enhanced transition. But the last kind of two things I would talk about are in the first kind of couple of weeks back before, after August, which I'll come to how that'll work in a wee minute. Mrs. Marchant intends to do some kind of enhanced transition activities for pupils that are maybe struggling, or for pupils that are particularly anxious. And that would be, they would certainly take place in the first couple of days, but also possibly into the second week if we felt that they were, if they were required. And I suppose the last thing I would say is that if in your one-to-one, if you choose to have a one-to-one and you would like to come in before the school starts after the summer holidays, then we are happy to have members of staff in the school during August. Obviously, the school won't be running like a normal school at that point. It will be dead quiet, but it might be another opportunity for people to have a wander around, to familiarise themselves with classes or with it, just with the environment, and have a chat to Mrs. Marchant or some of our learning assistants or myself, and just try and, I suppose, alleviate any fears and try and help you out with any kind of issues that you may have with that. Again, if you've got any questions about that, then please do ask at the end. So moving on to the return in August, I'm sure you will have seen in the press in the last couple of days that the council have produced our model. So the way it's going to work for secondary schools is that we are going to have pupils in on a 3 and 2 rotation. So ultimately what that means is that over a 2-week period, they get 5 days of in-school learning, 5 days at home learning. So we're running at 50%. Obviously, we hope and pray that that is a very short-term measure and that we can get as much of the school back in as soon as possible. But this is very much a starting point, and the second that we're allowed to bring more pupils in safely and think about the safety of pupils and families and staff, then we'll obviously do that. The way that we're working it is that the timetables that were sent out before, that you should all now have, will run as normal. So the timetable that you have will be correct, and your child will follow the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of 1 week, and they'll follow the Thursday, Friday the other week, and home learning tasks will be set for the days that they're not in. On the first week back after the holidays, we are returning to school on Wednesday, 12th of August. So our plan at present, and I would say that all these plans are subject to change because, as you know, everything is changing quite rapidly at the moment. But as I say, we're planning for this just now, is that we would have our Group A, so our first group would be in on the Wednesday, we would have Group B in the Thursday, Friday, but the following week, so that would be the week beginning the 17th of August, I think, we would start again with Group A from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Group B would be Thursday, Friday, and then from there it would rotate week on week. All this stuff will come out in a letter near the time, and we've added the new P7 parents to our mailing lists now, so we're going to try and send you the kind of updates and the letters that we're sending out, just with regards to how that's going to work. The idea behind that is so that in the first couple of weeks, all pupils get an equal amount of schooling. So that means that in the first 2 weeks of school, the first week and a half, all pupils get 4 days within school. I suppose the big concern for all of us is around safety and around social distancing. We had our health and safety visit today with the local authority, and we explained our plans, and they had a walk around just about every room in the school, and they were very comfortable with what we were planning to do. So to give you some examples, we are setting up a one-way system within the school to avoid the kind of busy corridors that we've got, so all people will be going the same direction, and that if you've been within our school, the teaching block is 3 floors, so they'll only be able to go certain ways and through certain doors, and there'll be signage up, and we're hoping to have that signage up by the induction days next week if we can. I suppose that what I should have started with is that we're already running as a hub, for a childcare hub for key workers and for vulnerable children and the like. So we're already running our school with as much of the social distancing as we possibly can, and we've already had good experience with this. We'll have hand washing stations, we've got lots of hand sanitizer everywhere, lots of wipes, and we are very conscious of the kind of considerations around this. Our normal classrooms, so what I mean by normal classrooms is the non-practical subjects, that would be English, history, modern studies, geography, modern languages, maths. They would be the maximum class at the moment with 2 metre social distancing is 12 pupils. Obviously in the induction days that's fine because it'll be a maximum of 9 pupils per group. And for practical classes, so that's our sciences, design, technology, PE, home economics, the maximum class size is 10. So again, for induction days we're fine. If things change over the summer then and we're able to increase that, that's great. But either way, the model will stay the same and the timetables will remain the same. So nothing's going to change for pupils in that respect. It might just be that hopefully we can have more pupils in at some point throughout as the term goes on. What else was I going to say? Breaks and lunches. So our plan at present, we haven't finalised plans for this yet because it's a bit of a challenge when you're a 2 to 18 school. Our plan at present is to have staggered breaks and lunches. So again, we're trying to reduce the amount of pupils that are in the common areas of the school and in the playground within the school. So the plan is to have staggered breaks and lunches, and also all first years, I mean, I'll come back to the canteen later, but all first years would need to use the canteen anyway. Obviously you can bring packed lunch and anything you want, but they would need to use the canteen in first year, and then in second year, hopefully by then we're back to normal, that they can then go down the street if they want to, or remain, as probably the majority of our pupils do actually, and remain within the canteen and have their lunch there. So I suppose before I move on to blended learning, what I would say is that all these plans are subject to change. Please ask questions at the end and I'll do my best to answer them. I can't guarantee, obviously, with the situation as we are now, I can't guarantee that I can answer absolutely everything, but I will certainly try my best to do that. With regards to blended learning, as I said before, we're going to have 50% in school, 50% out of school. We have just set up our programme called Satchel 1, which is accessed through Glow. It used to be called Show My Homework for anybody that's had siblings through the school in the past. So we've been using this with our S1 US2 and 3 pupils, and we'll be using this with the incoming S1. Regardless of how long the blended learning approach takes, we'll continue to use Satchel 1 as the platform that we would set homework on anyway. So for us, it's really important that we get started with that nice and early, and hopefully when things are back to normal, then pupils are well used to using it, and that helps them manage their homework. Real benefits of Satchel 1 are for us, and you can see here's an example here that for a particular pupil, that you can see their specific tasks that have been set by specific teachers. So they would be able to add, oh, Mrs. Marchant has joined us.
Oh, hello. Sorry I'm late.
All right, it's okay. We've gone through enhanced transition, but if there's any questions that come through, you can maybe help us with that at the end.
Yeah.
So I was talking about Satchel 1 there. It allows teachers to set specific work for their classes, and it's not, so it's depending on the level of pupils, and it allows pupils to then ask questions to teachers, and if they don't understand something, they can ask questions, and also teachers can then mark that and can give feedback on that. So as a system for pupils, we feel it's working really well at the moment. And then for parents, I suppose the beauty of it is that you can download the app and you get a parent code that is specific to your child, and you can download the app or log in online, and you can see all the work that's been set for your child. You cannot do it for them, which is a good thing, but you can see what they've done, and you can make sure that you can see the person in the example here has been a very good student, has submitted all their work, but you can see if things have been submitted or not submitted or have been late, and you can kind of support that home learning approach from home. Transport. So transport is...
Sorry, Ewan, somebody's just said they can't hear anymore. I'm just wondering if that's the case for all parents.
Somebody comment and let us know.
In the chat.
In the chat section.
Well, it looks like most people can hear. So I did say at the start to another parent, I typed a response just to let you know we are recording this. So if for whatever reason it drops out or anything like that, it will be recorded and we will share that recording with you, or for anyone that couldn't join us tonight.
Okay, thanks. So I'll move on with transport. So one of the biggest challenges around the kind of blended learning approach is going to be transport. The vast majority of our pupils get the bus to school. and obviously these buses are going to be running at a reduced capacity. One of the tasks that I did today with a member of the office staff was to go through our whole school bus lists and be sent off a return to them to let them know which groupings pupils would be in as it stands just now, and they are then going to try and coordinate the transport for the pupils on that bus. So what they're telling us is that buses will be running. They're telling us that they'll obviously be having to adhere to social distancing guidelines that go on, and pupils that are entitled to bus transport within our catchment will get that. Pupils out with catchment, I spoke with both Houston's coaches and Stagecoach today, who are the providers of the buses from Dumfries, which I know majority of people get, and also from further north up Sanker Way. Both of them are hoping to run their service, obviously not as normal, but at the same times, and again with reduced capacity. Obviously with reduced capacity in buses, we're hoping that and the numbers, the way they worked out today, we're confident that because we're only having 50% of pupils within the school, that the transport will work out, we're hoping, but obviously it's a bit of a logistical nightmare, as you can imagine. So the authority are kind of undergoing that scoping exercise just now, and we have already kind of aligned that we're going to have relatively equal numbers on buses to try and give the best possible chance for the social distancing to be adhered to, but also for not needing to put on lots more buses and lots more bus runs and things like that. Again, please ask questions about that at the end, and I'll do my best to try and answer. Uniform, so I just wanted to clarify any uniform questions that we had. So for everyone, entitled to wear black school trousers or shorts, no jeans, no trackies or combats or leggings or jeggings. I'm not entirely sure what they are, but they're on the sheet, so I'll go with that. Obviously skirts are acceptable, and we would just ask for them to be at a reasonable length. Shirts, we would look for a plain white shirt, long or short sleeved. We don't really want large logos or stripes or colours or anything like that. And school ties, the good news for all of our first years this year is that cluster parent councils have bought school ties for pupils within our cluster, and pupils out with the cluster will be given a tie from us as a wee kind of welcome present to Wallace Hall. And if you don't have a tie next week, we will give you one on the induction days. If for whatever reason people aren't able to make the induction days, just let us know and we'll send one out to you. I mentioned skirts before, black tights and black socks, please. Jumpers and cardigans, so we've looked for V-neck jumpers. Again, try and have no logos, and again, hooded tops aren't part of the uniform. This is all uniform that can be worn in classes, by the way. If people are wearing jackets and hoodies and things like that, that's okay, but when they go into class, they would be asked to remove them. Shoes, as you can see there, that's the kind of three types of shoes that we'd be looking for. So basically any plain black comfortable footwear. We're fine with a kind of white sole around the bottom there, but we would ask not to have kind of large white logos or coloured logos or anything like that. And again, please feel free to ask questions. Canteen, so as I said before, all S1, it has been the rule at Wallace Hall for as long as I can remember, and I think most schools at S1 will stay in school during the lunchtimes for the duration of S1, and then all being well, then they'll be permitted to go into the village as of June 2021. The link on here, and again we'll share this PowerPoint through the school website. We've got a transitions page there, so we'll share this PowerPoint on thereafter. There's a link there about school lunches and free school meals. We also run a free breakfast club, so that's usually run by our senior pupils, and pupils can come in and for free can get some toast or a cup of tea or coffee, and that's just there for any people. It doesn't matter who, they can go up and get that, and it's just designed to give people a bit of a start to the day, especially if they've been rushing out in the morning. So I mentioned before about our transitions website. That's just at wallacehall.co.uk/transitions. If you just go to the Wallace Hall website, on the front page there should be a link to that, and you can access that. And as I said, the PowerPoint for this, and I'm hoping that the video to this presentation will be put up on there as well, if I can figure out how to do that. We're also active on social media through Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. So if you just search for Wallace Hall Academy there or Wallace Hall School, you'll get us on there. And also, the final thing I'd point out, I mentioned Satchel One earlier on. You'll see the logo for Satchel One there on the website. So that's one way to get into it. So you just go to Wallace Hall, you can click that, and immediately that'll bring up Satchel 1, and you'll be able to see the homework that's been set for your child. And the school bag logo there is where we store all the letters that go home and are sent out. So we know what it's like sometimes if we give people letters, they stay in the bottom of a bag for months on end, and the idea for us is that we can put them all there and parents can check that, and any letters that you maybe should have received but haven't, you can access there. Final couple of slides. So Parent Council are always keen to hear your views and to get you involved. So Louise Cochrane is the chairperson of the Parent Council, and they have a separate email account. So any questions that you have, or if you want to be involved in the Parent Council, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to hear from you. So again, they're really keen to engage with as much of our new parents as possible, and so please, if you want to, get in touch with them. So finally, we'll move on to the kind of question and answer section. So there are a few options here. If it's a private question, when you ask the questions, the only people that can see them are us at the time. When we can answer them live, so I can verbally answer them through this, and that's what I'd hope to do with most of them, so that people, all the people can hear the answers to all the questions. But if it's a private question, if you write private at the start, we can type you a private response. If you're happy for us to read out the question live, and you can press anonymous, so you don't need to be identified. And obviously, if there's specific questions, as Laura said at the start, if there's specific questions about your pupils, about your children, then please, you can save them for a one-to-one conversation. And if you've not signed up for that, after this presentation, if you email the school or give us a phone tomorrow, we can put you down on the list for that. So I will stop sharing our presentation now, and the three of us are back on. We've still got most of our attendees, so people haven't switched off, which is a good sign.
Might have fallen asleep though.
May have fallen asleep, I hope not. So I'm going to pull up our first questions. That's good. So yeah, there's a question here. If young Scott cards are not in place for new S1s by August, how do they pay? So I'll click answer live for that. That's one that we're working on at the moment. I know the canteen staff are trying to figure out the best system of doing that. It may be that we use a pre-order system within school, where pupils are, for S1 pupils in particular, if they're using the canteen, that they are pre-ordered by parents and prepaid by parents. It may be that young Scott cards will be able to be in place, and we're hoping that would be the case. I would doubt that we'll be using cash, but it's the company that runs the canteen are separate to the school at the moment, but I know that that's something we're working on, and that would be something that we'd probably send out as soon as we get it. And as I say, we've got all the email addresses there, so you will now be on our mailing list.
Yeah, even when we're not in this situation that we're in, we often find that pre-ordering is quite a positive option for pupils, particularly when the canteen's quite busy compared to some of the smaller primaries that we've got. Pupils like it because they can order their meal in the morning and they can collect it ready, so they don't have to worry about going into the canteen and into the queues and figuring out which queue they need to go in, because sometimes the pupils do worry about that. So even if we're in this situation or not, pre-ordering is a really fantastic resource that the canteen offer, and we would encourage as many to use it as possible. Yeah,
definitely. So there's another question here. Will you be contacted about school transport? So the answer to that is yes. For cluster pupils, you'll be contacted, I think, by the local authority, is my understanding, because they are, as I said, we've sent away all our information to you today. So I would imagine you'll be contacted by the local authority, or if not, from the local authority, but via us. And that would just come out via a letter, I would imagine. Bus passes will be, as my understanding is, they will be sent out as normal, and they're sent out by the local authority. For non-cluster pupils, we would get that information as a school, and we will communicate that through our email system over the summer holidays. And again, when we often, if you start following us on our social media accounts, we often put up key information on our social media accounts and on our website as well. So I suppose the key thing is just to keep an eye on your emails over the summer, keep an eye on your post. I would imagine it'll take them a couple of weeks to sort out how the transport system is going to work. Certainly it's a really key thing for us to be focused on in the next couple of weeks, so it's certainly one that we want to be communicating with parents on. Next question, for families that are shielding and cannot attend the induction day, could something similar be arranged for when shielding has ended but before school starts? We wouldn't be able to set up formal induction days as we have just now, because I suppose the logistics of getting, we've got 93 pupils I think in the first year as it stands next year, so the logistics of getting 93 pupils in the building before the start of the term probably couldn't happen. But as I said before, we're more than happy before school starts on August the 12th to arrange a visit with either Mrs. Marchant, myself, learning assistants, depends who it is, to take a walk around the school, familiarise yourselves, ask any questions, show you as many classrooms as you want, and I think that's what we would offer there. And as I said before, and Aileen maybe want to elaborate on this a little bit about the plans for enhanced transitions in the first couple of weeks back. Aileen, do you want to just go into your
Yeah,
plans?
certainly the first week back, obviously the pupils come back on a Wednesday, so they'll only be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So for the first week, it'll be quite nice for them. They're not in as a full week, so hopefully that will relax some of their anxieties. But on those days, there'll be no pressure for them to fully launch into a timetable as we would normally expect. So we'll certainly arrange some transition sessions. So similar to what we're doing on the induction days, which is a taster session of a subject, a timetable challenge, and a circle time activity. So we would be happily to rearrange them and to do it with a smaller group for those that feel that they need it. And we'll know who you guys are, because we'll communicate with you and through our one-to-ones, and we'll be able to spot as well when kids come into the building. My team will be very obvious, and we'll be looking out for pupils that we think are looking a bit worried, a bit anxious, and we'll be catching them as quick as we can, whether you give us a ring or we see them ourselves. So we'll certainly be organising some transition activities when we come back straight away.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question there is, will the daily start and finish times remain the same, or will they be staggered? Our plan at present, again, I stress that these are subject to change as with everything, but our plan at present is to keep the start time the same, but just to have a softer start in terms of how pupils enter and exit, and a softer finish in terms of how pupils enter and exit the building. So it may be that we, for example, got our first years in a little bit earlier, or we got our senior kids, or however that's going to work. But it's more, our concern with that is more about, we don't want, we're going to have half the school, which will be about 250 pupils. We don't want 250 pupils to be piling through the doors at once. So with that, we're looking at how we can have a kind of softer start by getting pupils in kind of smaller groups with that. Yeah, so I think I was going to say something else there, but it's gone.
What do you mean, Ewan? Like what? So, because I'm guessing parents are thinking, do they send their kids to school to start at the usual time?
Yes, so you send your pupils to start at the usual time. We're setting out, our plan for the playground is that we're going to have specific areas for the playground for kind of S1-2s, 4-5 or 4-5-6s, and for S3s. And we would, again, I'm not entirely sure how the logistics system will work, but we're going to try and pull them in different groups from those areas.
Right. Okay.
We're going to try and limit the amount of time that pupils are spending inside. Again, we're hoping that this doesn't last for too long, because as it gets into winter, this might start getting a bit cold and a bit wet. But certainly in the short term, we're hoping that the August weather is okay, and we can go with that plan. As I say, that's our plan as it stands, and we're kind of.
But as a parent, you're sending your kid to school at the usual time, and they're coming home at the usual time.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. And the same will apply for lunchtimes. There'll be slightly staggered times, I believe, from lunchtime. So within the school day, we'll be making sure as much as possible that they are able to keep a distance.
The next question is with regard to classroom usage. How will they be cleaned between each different class group, particularly for practical based subjects? So our plan there is that it will be teachers' responsibility to clean down, for example, desks. So we're going to have enough wipes to last us a lifetime, I think, but we're going to clean down desks between classes. So and obviously with practical subjects, we need to think carefully about the equipment that we use for practical subjects, but again, our teachers are going to be trained on the kind of appropriate health and safety with that. So what do they need to wipe down immediately afterwards? Obviously we'll have hand sanitizer within every class. We're hoping to have a dispenser on every classroom door as well, so that when pupils come in, they can access that. So that is our plan at present. We're kind of taking advice on that at the moment. As I say, we had our health and safety discussion today, and that was our plan as it stands. So I hope that answers your question. are parents allowed to enter the school on the induction days, or do we just drop children off? I'm afraid you cannot enter the school. It's a regional policy actually that we've got to try and limit our footfall within the building, and that's why we're only running our induction days for our smaller groups as much as the social distancing. We've got to kind of try and keep the numbers in the building as low as possible. So yeah, it's a case of dropping the children off. As you drive up to the school, obviously there's the drop-off area on the way. It's a kind of one-way system that goes around the school, so you can use that. There's the car park on the far side over by that's kind of slightly further away, and pupils can walk through the kind of.
We will be there at the doors because we realise some of them probably feeling a bit apprehensive about coming in by themselves. So we will be there at the doors, and if you wanted to have a conversation with one of us, then obviously we can come outside to do that. So we will be available when you drop them off, even though you can't come in.
Yeah, and there'll be people like Mrs. Mack and I available there, but there'll also be other teachers and learning assistants as well. So there'll be quite a range of adults across the school that will be able to welcome your child in and show them exactly where to go.
Okay, next question is, would you prefer all students to wear face masks? The advice we are getting at the moment is that there's no requirement just now for face masks to be worn by pupils. We are asking the question of when, certainly for the induction days, there's no requirement at the moment. It would be personal preference. So you can decide as parents whether you would want your child to wear a face mask or not. We're trying to get a kind of definitive answer from the authority as to when we're back in school, and the numbers are slightly greater, whether that's going to be advice, and that would be communicated through the letters that we send out over the summer holidays. And I think the same legitimate question about that would be about school transport.
I can see there's one being asked, Jade. Would pupils travelling on buses be advised to wear face masks?
Yeah, so I think the answer to that will be yes, but again, it's the authority that run the transport side of things. It's not a school-based thing. So we'll just take advice from them and we'll pass that along to you. Okay. Next question: are there any plans to add to the curriculum for S1 kids to catch up on the education lost in the last 3 months, and how will this happen given blended learning? It's a really difficult one, that, and I think the first task for us as a school is because we've got pupils coming from, I don't know, about 12 different primary schools, I would guess, something like that, that we need to our first task is to try and figure out where the pupils are with their learning, and I would imagine the initial focus for that, well, certainly from our maths and English teams, will be around their literacy and numeracy, but we need to kind of assess where pupils are, and then as a school we'll certainly be starting to think about how we approach kind of getting catch-up time there. I mean, I wouldn't envisage just doing anything extra outside of the school day, because if pupils are in there for that, we can only have 50% of the pupils in at that time. But what I would think is that if we feel that specific pupils have suffered as a result of the lockdown, that we could look at how we can change their timetable. So, for example, it may be that we took them from a class and they worked in Mrs. March's team, and that was with a focus on literacy. You maybe want to go into the literacy groups in second year, if that's okay.
Yep.
But we certainly, our first task is going to be to assess where pupils are with their learning, and to kind of make decisions around what do we need to do, or do we need to put in any specific interventions for specific pupils or for the year group as a whole. But until we get the group in front of us, it's a really difficult one for us to answer that.
I was going to say as well, just in terms of, just before the literacy group, I was just going to say we also always offer targeted support to any of our pupils who benefit from free school meals. So if your child's entitled to free school meals, we have what's called our PEF team, Pupil Equity Fund team, and they provide learning mentoring where they take on groups of pupils, they meet with them one-to-one, and they set learning targets. So that's certainly something that we'd be looking to address through the PEF team as well.
Yeah, and although their learning is obviously going to be a high priority, I think their emotional need at coming to a new school, coming to not finishing primary 7 in the way that they'd expected for the previous 6 years, I think their emotional needs are going to be a real priority, and in some cases that'll take precedence over their learning needs. And that's going to be our priority, and making sure that we are there for the kids, we listen to them, and through those conversations and those sort of nurture environments, we'll be able to identify where they're struggling with their learning. Because until we can get them to feel calm and relaxed in our environment, and to trust us and to trust the situation that they're now being part of, they've obviously been in their own home environments for so long, and they're now thrown back into kind of public life. We need to make sure that they're understanding that it's still safe to do so, and that will be really important. So my team will offer those sessions, offer that time, offer that care, because they'll be in the first year classes. So they're called purple polos because they wear purple polo t-shirts. So they're learning assistants. They'll be in the classes. They'll be able to identify who's struggling. You guys again will tell us if your child is struggling or not, and we'll be focusing on getting that right. And along with that, then comes getting the learning right as well. So we have things in place for identified pupils that are really struggling with their literacy, and they're offered to be part of the literacy study group, which we call it. And it's instead of attending modern languages, and it's identified through your primary teacher. So as an identified group of pupils will have had these discussions with your primary teachers to say that they would benefit from this. But as the year goes through, and certainly in the beginning few weeks, we'll be looking at not necessarily where we can provide literacy support, but where we can provide that emotional support. We offer one-to-ones with our learning assistants, the pupil support staff. We do one-to-ones with the pupils. So there's lots out there to catch them, but we do rely on the parents telling us as well how you're coping at home, how you're dealing with the blended learning, what your child is saying when they come home at night, because sometimes we don't see that in school, and it'll be the opposite as well. Sometimes you'll see things that you don't see. So it's just building that relationship between pupil support staff and home to make sure that we're catching everything that we possibly can.
Okay, thank you. So next question is, does the school have a firm plan in place for a positive case of COVID within the school? So the short answer to that is yes. Because we're running as a hub at the moment, there's a kind of risk assessment in place there for that, and that involves isolating the student until they can be picked up, and obviously then we need to try and trace contacts within the school. The other deputy teacher, Mr. Blair, has got a very fancy piece of software on his computer, because he does the timetable, that for us can trace all the pupils that child has been in contact with within their classes. Obviously, if it's a member of staff, then we can do it through a member of staff. But if it's a pupil, then we can trace all the pupils that child's been in contact with. And then there's a kind of a procedure that we need to follow where within our risk assessment about how we isolate that child, how we contact parents, and then obviously there's I think it's called Test and Protect now with the Scottish Government, and we're able to kind of provide information on that. So yeah, that was a long answer, but the short answer is yes, we've got a risk assessment in place for that, and a quite clear procedure for that. How are kids going to be encouraged to wash hands, use antibac gel frequently? So I suppose there's a two-part answer. From a school point of view, we'll certainly be doing that as members of staff as frequently as we possibly can. There's already lots of signage up in the school. There's going to be lots of opportunities with soap, hand sanitizer around the school, and we're going to have a cleaning team on throughout the day as well. It's a kind of new addition in recent days that we're going to have a cleaning team on that are going to be working around the school, wiping down door handles, banisters, the kind of push plates on the doors, all the kind of things that are touched very frequently. So they're just going to be on a kind of constant rotation of doing that. So we're going to have to do that. We're going to ask pupils, obviously, to take some responsibility for that. I know that's maybe a challenge, especially for younger pupils, but we're certainly going to be asking them to look after their own health and the health of others, and take responsibility for that. And I suppose the final part is that we'd ask you as parents just to encourage pupils to do that as much as possible. If they want to bring their own squeezy hand gel in, then feel free, that's absolutely fine, and we just encourage you to encourage them to do that as much as possible. But there will certainly be multiple opportunities throughout the day that they will be both encouraged to do it, but also have the opportunity to do it within school. Next question was, are there any special requirements for PE kit? At present, no is the answer. We are looking at PE changing facilities as it stands just now. we are looking at how we can use the PE changing facilities and whether we can use them safely. That's part of the risk assessment process that we're going through at the moment. We have measured out our PE changing facilities in terms of distancing, and we can certainly get a decent number of pupils in there. And the beauty of our PE changing facilities is that we've got cubicles in the changing rooms, so we can use all them as well. Or we've got cubicles in a large part of them, but we don't have any specific requirements for PE kit at the moment. It may be the case that if a pupil's got PE that day, that we ask them to come in PE kit, but we've not made any definitive decisions on that.
Do we maybe mean, sorry, as in what they've got to wear for the kit?
Yeah, and we don't, at the moment, we don't have any special requirements.
As in, so pupils can just wear anything they like?
Yeah, so, sorry, in terms of, yeah, sorry, I was thinking about COVID-19, but I'm talking about general PE kit. Sorry, I've got COVID-19 in the brain. General PE kit, no, we tentatively ask for no football colours. We tend to not have any issues with that. People have worn strips in the past, and to be honest, we've never had an issue. I mean, I've been in the PE department for 10 years, it's never been an issue. So, no special requirements. Trainers, pair of shorts or jogging bottoms or leggings, a t-shirt if you're going outside, a jumper, a hoodie, jacket, something like that. Just bog standard PE kit. Next question, are there any concerns from teaching staff regarding their own return to school, social distancing, health and safety implications? Honest answer is probably yes, that there are. We've done a kind of fairly extensive staff consultation just recently about their concerns, allowing them to raise questions, staff to raise questions with us around how, I suppose, we're going to try and keep them safe within the school and try and keep the people safe within the school. And we're kind of having meetings on a meeting on Friday with all our PTs who have collated views from all the teaching staff. So there are concerns. I think all staff are very much committed to getting pupils back though, and are aware that this period of, while we're doing home learning and we're trying our best, it's just not the same as being in school. So I think we've had no complaints from staff about coming back at all. I think they're just wanting us to make sure that we've got the appropriate distancing and health and safety in place, which obviously we're trying our best to do. And I suppose the bigger concern is, how do we make sure that our blended learning after the summer is meeting all the people's needs? How do we make sure that we're getting pupils caught up as best we possibly can, and how do we, particularly for our senior phase kids when we're thinking about moving forward to exams, how can we best support them to move forward with their national qualifications? And I suppose, as Aileen alluded to earlier, for us a big thing, and it was raised by a number of staff, is about the kind of mental, emotional health of our pupils. How can we best support that? How can we make sure that we are doing everything in our power to try and support that for our pupils and make sure that we're meeting their needs with that one. Next question. Will there be any additional support via the PEF team to assist students who are not entitled to free school meals like there is for literacy? So Mrs. Marchant and I have had conversations just recently about learning mentoring and how we can expand that programme, because we have PEF learning mentoring, which we've got kind of two and a bit members of staff that run PEF learning mentoring, but we're also looking at how we have expanded that through the kind of home learning period, and we've got a number of pupils that are getting kind of regular phone calls from learning assistants, from teachers to try and support them, and even if it's to do with organisation and things like that, which I know is a struggle for a lot of people at the moment, we're trying that, and we're kind of looking at how we can keep that going after the summer holidays, and how we can kind of support it. For us, I think the bigger concern is how we can support the home learning portion. If we can, we're confident about what we're doing within school, but then we know that home learning is a challenge and homeschooling is a challenge for parents, so it's how we can support that. And I suppose we need to think about how we can support parents with that as well.
Yeah, and we do recognise, just as Mr. Mack has said, that the home learning is new, and that is going to be a huge concern. We all, after the school, the blended, particularly for you guys, your children that are coming from primary to secondary, they're going to have to learn a new system. So I would allocate some of my team to dedicate time to helping pupils, whether it's remotely or when they're in school, to help them and get them prepared for what they're going to learn when they're at home. So it's when the learning mentoring is happening through PEF, it will be mirrored with learning assistance through my team, and we work in partnership, so we work very closely. We work with all the same sort of children, So there will be time dedicated to making sure that the kids fully understand like what the Satchel 1 is, like how they hand in work, how they communicate with the teachers and things. But also for you guys as parents, I can imagine it can be quite a daunting experience, and you're going from one primary teacher, how do you then communicate with all these secondary teachers? So that's where we'll be able to offer that little bit of extra support, whether it's in a short term or a longer term. It'll depend on family to family, but there's certainly it's something that's on our mind, but it also relies on you guys telling us how things are going as well, and communicating with us whether you need more or if it's okay on what we're doing.
Great, thank you. And the last question that's there at the moment is, my child has eczema on hands which is irritated by some sanitisers. Is it acceptable to bring one? Yes, that's absolutely fine. So we would just encourage you to bring your own if that's the case, and we're more than happy to support that. And obviously, just when we are encouraging pupils to use the hand sanitizer within school, we would just obviously ask that your child does that. I see on the right hand side there was a comment about in classrooms pupils are 2 metres away, so is test and trace such an issue? As I say, we've just got responsibility to identify the contacts pupils have had within the school. We then pass that information on, and then people that know a lot more about COVID-19 than us can make decisions around who needs to be contacted and who doesn't. But yeah, the whole idea is to keep pupils as 2 metres apart for as much of the time as possible. Are we able to guarantee that that will happen absolutely all the time in playgrounds and in corridors and everything else? Absolutely not. We are going to try our best to encourage it, but with the best will in the world, it may not happen. So I suppose that is why we need to try and keep tabs on as much of the contact as possible. And yeah, I mean, I think that's why we're doing that.
I can see, sorry, Ewan, I can see a question there. I noticed one parent said that their child's Microsoft Teams code is not working. That's because we sent the wrong code out for SCAR. So we realised we had 2 of the letters the wrong way round. So we then tried to group call the parents from SCAR. So I'm assuming you didn't get that. So I've taken your name down, we've got your email address, so I'll email you the code for SCAR. If there's any other parents who are in SCAR and the code's not working, that's why it's our fault. So if you just send us a little message, we'll send the code to you.
Last question at the moment is, have you discussed plans for pupils who are not following social distancing, hygiene, etc., and how this will be addressed? Yeah, we have, and our first thing is going to be about, on the first couple of days, we're going to have a big focus on educating pupils around their responsibilities with that, the people it affects if they don't do it. It's not just about them and their family, it's about other people in other families, staff, and I think there's going to be a big part of our education over the first few weeks is going to be around responsibilities around that. And we have had discussions about the best ways to approach pupils that aren't following. Obviously, we hope that isn't the case, and again, we've got procedures in place around kind of behaviour and within our positive relationships policy, so we'd follow that. But I mean, I suppose the first thing we would always try and do is educate people on the effects of not adhering to such things before we do anything else. And again, we would ask for parent support just to try and encourage that from your end as well, as much as we possibly can. Okay. There are no other questions open. If anybody else wants to ask any, then please feel free to do so. I'm not seeing any appear, so I think that wraps us up for tonight. I suppose I would just like to thank everybody for sticking with us. That's been over an hour now, and hopefully we've answered some of your questions. And you may well go off tonight and think, oh God, I should have asked that, or I didn't want to ask that on here. If that's the case, then just if you give the school a phone tomorrow, then the office staff will probably take a call, and we'll call you back. If you want to email the school email address, then that just gets pinged straight through to one of us or whoever's most appropriate. And again, we'll call you back, and we'll try and answer as many questions as we possibly can, or discuss any issues that you might have. So yeah, I think that might well be us. I'll do one final check on the questions. No, so okay, right. Thank you very much for joining us, people. I'll end the meeting now, and yeah, hopefully we'll see your pupils next week. If not, we'll see you in August. But as again, just please get in touch if there's anything else we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.